There are accidents in the United States that, whether due to the passage of time, the magnitude of the disaster, or their sheer terror, have faded from public memory. But that doesn't mean they haven't left a dark mark. In this video, I want to share some brief stories of real-life airplane moments in the United States that turned into absolute terror in seconds. Let's begin with an accident where, mid-flight, a window shattered and a passenger was ejected from the plane, a traumatic moment. We're talking about Southwest Airlines Flight 1380. At 32,000 feet, a commercial jet suffers a sudden explosion. A passenger is partially sucked out of a shattered window. Oxygen masks drop. The cabin fills with debris and screaming. Minutes later, the aircraft makes an emergency landing. One passenger is dead. No fire, no crash, yet a fatal accident still occurred. On April 17, 2018, Southwest Flight 1380 departs New York LaGuardia bound for Dallas. The aircraft is a Boeing 737-700. The captain is highly experienced. The first officer is well-trained. Weather conditions are calm. The flight climbs normally. Everything feels routine. No warnings, no abnormal indications. Until the silence is broken by a violent bang. The explosion comes from the left engine. A fan blade inside the engine breaks apart. Fragments tear through the engine casing and strike the fuselage. One fragment shatters a passenger window. The broken fan blade itself was not new. It had been inspected before. It had passed visual checks. But inside the metal, a tiny, microscopic fatigue crack had been growing for years. Invisible, undetectable by standard inspections, harmless, until it wasn't. The fractured blade triggers a catastrophic engine failure. Shrapnel breaches the cabin. Rapid decompression occurs. The crew must control a damaged aircraft, handle decompression, descend rapidly, coordinate with ATC, prepare for emergency landing. They do everything correctly, but the systems designed to contain blade failures did not fully contain this one. Certification standards assumed a different failure pattern. The danger was not pilot error. It was a design assumption. After Flight 1380, engine inspection methods were upgraded. Ultrasonic testing became mandatory. Engine containment certification was revised. Window strength standards were reviewed. Southwest 1380 proved a terrifying truth. Sometimes the most dangerous failure begins as a flaw too small to see. Because in aviation, what you can't detect today can become tomorrow's emergency. But although this accident was unusual, the next one, caused by pilot distraction, cost the lives of several people when they crashed at the beginning of the runway. We're talking about Asiana Airlines Flight 214. A wide-body jet strikes a seawall short of the runway. The tail is torn off. The fuselage breaks apart. Passengers are thrown from their seats. The aircraft spins, slides, and burns across the runway in front of dozens of cameras. 3 people die. More than 180 are injured. It looks like a catastrophic mechanical failure. But no major system was broken. No engine failed. The airplane was flyable until the final seconds. On July 6, 2013, Asiana Airlines Flight 214 departs Seoul, South Korea, bound for San Francisco. The aircraft is a Boeing 777, one of the most advanced airliners in service. Weather in San Francisco is clear. Visibility is excellent. The crew is highly trained. The captain is performing a training flight, practicing a visual approach. Automation is partially available. Everything about this flight appears routine. There is no emergency, no warnings, no abnormal checklists. The critical detail is speed control. The pilots believe the auto throttle is maintaining airspeed. It is not. The system is in a mode that does not protect speed, even though the pilots assume it does. The aircraft slowly decelerates, not dramatically, not suddenly, just a few knots at a time. Nobody notices. The descent continues. Airspeed keeps bleeding away. The aircraft is becoming unstable. But the crew's eyes are focused outside, on the runway. The automation appears to be helping. This misunderstanding of a single mode, one small switch logic, becomes fatal. As speed decays, lift decreases, descent rate increases. The aircraft sinks below the glide path. No one calls out the low speed. No one disconnects automation early enough. When the crew finally realizes the danger, they push the throttles forward. They pull the nose up. But jet engines take time to spool. The aircraft is already too low. The tail strikes the seawall. The fuselage fractures. Fire erupts. This is not one mistake. It is a human-automation interaction failure, mode confusion, inadequate monitoring, over-reliance on systems, all happening quietly. After Flight 214, airlines expanded manual flying training. Automation mode awareness became a core competency. Stabilized approach criteria were strictly enforced. Crews were taught to intervene earlier. Asiana 214 proved something uncomfortable. Advanced technology does not eliminate human error. It changes its shape. Because sometimes, the most dangerous failure is not a broken part. It's a misunderstood one. But if you think this accident was terrifying, the next one ended up crashing to Earth after mistaking the runway for the wrong one. We're talking about UPS Flight 1354. In the final seconds of approach, a cargo aircraft slams into terrain short of the runway. There is no Mayday call, no fire warning transmitted, no clear indication of a mechanical failure. Moments later, both pilots are dead. The aircraft is destroyed. It looks like a sudden, inexplicable crash, but the real cause began long before the descent. On August 14, 2013, UPS Flight 1354 departs Louisville, Kentucky, bound for Birmingham, Alabama. The aircraft is an Airbus A300-600F. The captain is experienced. The first officer is qualified. Weather is marginal, but within limits. The flight cruises normally. The crew begins an approach to runway 18 at Birmingham. Everything appears routine. The critical detail is which runway the crew is actually lined up with. Birmingham has two parallel runways, runway 18, runway 6/24. At night, with limited visual cues, the crew mistakes a shorter, unlit runway for their assigned runway. At the same time, the approach chart is misinterpreted. The descent profile is flown too low. Minimum altitudes are violated. None of these errors alone guarantee disaster. Together, they do. The aircraft descends below the safe glide path. No automated ground proximity warning activates in time. The crew remains focused on landing. By the time they realize something is wrong, they are too low and too slow. The aircraft strikes trees and terrain before reaching the runway. There is no recovery margin. This was not a single failure. It was a navigation, situational awareness, and monitoring breakdown. After Flight 1354, runway lighting and signage standards were reviewed. Approach chart design was improved. Emphasis on stabilized approaches increased. Crews received enhanced training on runway identification at night. UPS 1354 proved that accidents don't always begin with explosions or alarms. Sometimes, they begin with a simple assumption. We're lined up with the right runway. And in aviation, one wrong assumption is enough. But within the history of the United States, There is one in particular that left no survivors. I want to tell you the sad story of American Airlines Flight 191. Deafening roar shatters the air. In broad daylight, an American Airlines DC-10 loses its left engine during climb-out. The massive metal cylinder tears away from the wing, ripping cables, hydraulic lines, and any hope for a safe flight. In the control tower, controllers watch in horror as the aircraft banks dangerously, its left wing seemingly dragging it down.
Mayday, Mayday, Flight 305, we have an engine failure, requesting emergency landing.
In the cockpit, the captain and crew fight against a machine that no longer responds. But how did a flight, departing with 271 souls in perfect weather, reach this moment of absolute chaos? In the next few minutes, you'll hear the full story of American Airlines 191, the deadliest aviation accident on U.S. soil. It's May 25th, 1979, O'Hare International Airport, Chicago. American Airlines Flight 191 is preparing for its route to Los Angeles. The weather is perfect. Families wave goodbye with smiles, and the pilots review final checklists before takeoff. But no one, not in the terminal, not in the cockpit, not even in the maintenance team, suspects that in the left wing, engine number 1 hides a deadly trap. A vital component, damaged days earlier during improper maintenance, is about to fail. And when it does, there will be no way to stop what's coming. In the next few minutes, this routine flight will become the deadliest air disaster in U.S. history. Days before the flight, the DC-10's left engine had been removed for maintenance. But the method used wasn't the one recommended by the manufacturer. Instead of disassembling it piece by piece, the engine and its pylon were removed together using a crane. This caused invisible microfractures in the structure that attached it to the wing. No one saw them, no one looked for them, but the damage was there, just waiting for the force of takeoff to finish the job. And despite everything, that day, at 3:02 p.m., American Airlines Flight 191 is cleared for takeoff. The roar of the 3 engines shatters the quiet at O'Hare as the massive DC-10 begins its charge down the runway. The aircraft gains speed, the landing gear lifts from the asphalt, and then it happens. With a deafening metallic blast, the left engine tears completely away from the wing. The violent separation also rips away critical hydraulic and electrical lines, stripping control from the left wing. From the tower, controllers watch as the plane banks dangerously. In the cockpit, the captain fights to correct, but the DC-10 has already lost its deadly balance. In just 31 seconds after losing the engine, Flight 191's fate is sealed. At over 270 knots, the plane slams into an open field, barely 1.5 miles from the runway. The explosion is immediate. A fireball engulfs everything in its path. 273 lives are lost in what would become the deadliest air disaster in U.S. history. What you are about to hear is an actual recording of the black box at the time of the accident. Viewer discretion is advised. But first, if you are enjoying this video, please subscribe. It would help me a lot to continue growing. Now, let's go with the recording.
191, turn right 8330, clear for takeoff, 32 right, north lane. 191, on the way. I have control. Runway clear? Clear? Okay, setting takeoff front. Here we go.
In a matter of seconds, American Airlines Flight 191 ceased to exist. The investigation revealed that the cause was a structural failure caused by an improper maintenance method that had damaged the engine's pylon. The tragedy led to immediate changes in maintenance procedures and stricter inspections across the industry. But for the 273 families who lost loved ones, no technical improvement could ever fill the void. Today, a small memorial near O'Hare Airport honors those who departed on that sunny day, reminding us that in aviation, even the smallest error can have irreversible consequences. And finally, I want to share with you one last accident that not only claimed the lives of the plane's passengers, but also of some civilians who were resting at home. I want to share with you the story of the American Airlines Flight 587 crash. Just minutes after takeoff, a passenger jet breaks apart in midair. The vertical stabilizer rips away. The aircraft plunges into a residential neighborhood in New York. All 260 people on board are killed. 5 people on the ground also lose their lives. There is no explosion, no engine failure, no bomb. A modern aircraft simply comes apart. It looks impossible. On November 12, 2001, American Airlines Flight 587 departs John F. Kennedy International Airport bound for Santo Domingo. The aircraft is an Airbus A300-600. The captain is experienced. The first officer is young but qualified. Weather conditions are normal. Another large aircraft departs just ahead. Everything about the flight appears routine. No warnings, no malfunctions, just a normal departure. The small detail is how the first officer was trained to use the rudder. During previous training, pilots were taught aggressive rudder inputs to counter wake turbulence. The procedure seemed logical. If turbulence pushes the aircraft, use strong rudder corrections. What was not emphasized, the Airbus A300's rudder is extremely powerful at high speeds. Full, rapid rudder movements place enormous stress on the vertical stabilizer. This danger was not fully understood by pilots. The technique was taught. It was approved. It seemed safe. After encountering wake turbulence, the first officer applies rapid alternating rudder inputs. Left, right, left, right. Each input places massive loads on the tail. Within seconds, the stress exceeds structural limits. The vertical stabilizer snaps off. Without it, the aircraft becomes uncontrollable. Hydraulic lines are severed. The aircraft rolls and dives. The crew never has a chance to recover. This was not recklessness. It was a training-driven error. After Flight 587, rudder use philosophy changed worldwide. Training emphasized small, smooth inputs. Airbus modified flight control laws. Pilot manuals were rewritten. American 587 proved a haunting truth. Sometimes, the most dangerous mistake is not doing something forbidden. It's doing exactly what you were taught. Because in aviation, a procedure can be wrong long before anyone realizes it.